Hi everyone, and welcome to A&P with Dr. O. Now that we've talked more about our body cavities, it's time to move on to the serous membranes. To assist with our visualization, we're using figures from the Anatomy and Physiology OpenStax textbook. Serous membranes are going to line body cavities and cover the organ or organs within that body cavity. They're important because they produce a serous fluid which reduces friction. And when we talk about our serous membranes, we have two layers. We are going to have a visceral layer, and that is going to cover the organ or cover the viscera. When we think of the term viscera, think of soft tissue, think of organs. That's going to be our visceral layer. And then the second layer is going to be parietal, and that is going to line the cavity. What I've done is I've already pre-drawn in some of the lines representing the visceral and parietal layers. And then we also have a figure that shows these layers for the pericardial cavity. We know that the pericardial cavity houses the heart. And again, this cavity is going to have two serous membranes. It's going to have an outer one that lines the cavity, that's parietal, and an inner one that covers the organ, that is visceral. This inner one is covering the heart itself. If I just kind of draw in a little bit of it, we can see it's covering that organ or viscera. So that means that this is going to be visceral. And because it's the pericardial cavity, we use the term pericardium. Visceral pericardium is covering the heart. On the outside here, lining the cavity, that is going to be parietal. And again, because we're still dealing with the cavity that houses the heart, we're still going to use the term pericardium. It's the pericardial cavity, and the serous membrane is the pericardium. This space here then is showing us that cavity. And you can kind of use this visual analogy. If we had a balloon and we pushed our fist into the balloon, our fist is representing the heart, and the balloon then creates a double layered membrane. So we've got double layers here, and those represent the serous membrane. This would be visceral, this would be parietal, and then this space in the middle would represent the cavity. We can do the same thing with the pleural cavities. I've put some lines in here just to, in front of taping the video, just so that I already had them in. But you can go ahead and draw them in now for yourself. We'll have an outer one that lines the cavity. And this is the pleural cavity, and outer we know is parietal. So this is going to be the parietal pleura, since it's dealing with the pleural cavity. And then the inner one here, this inner one, is going to be the visceral pleura. I'll just draw a line out from the inner one here. That way we can label our visceral pleura. Now we have one more cavity that we didn't mention on the prior slide. So I've drawn in the serous membranes for it, and we can talk about it now. And that's the peritoneal cavity. The peritoneal cavity extends from the abdominal cavity to the superior portion of the pelvic cavity. And you can see that when we look at the serous membranes that I've drawn in to represent the peritoneum, the serous membranes that are associated with the peritoneal cavity. Again, if we have our outer one, that's going to be parietal. This will be the parietal peritoneum. And then we have this inner one here. Just come around and draw a line on the inner one. And this is going to be visceral. So that will be the visceral peritoneum.